world who are bringing all kinds of programming to our colleagues worldwide during an extraordinary time in our professional history. Today, we welcome one of my longtime favorite colleagues, Pak Willie. I will not even start to try to introduce him in detail. I met Pak Willie at the Teflon meeting in Indonesia some years ago, and it was really a wonderful experience. We also met later at Melta at the Malaysian English Language Teachers Association meetings in Johor Bahru, and we went through Singapore, my first time in Singapore. So I feel that we're coming home, and it's a great warm feeling in my heart as I look at these small squares of Pak Willie and all of our friends from all over the world. Ramadan Kareem to all of our Muslim colleagues who are here today. Ramadan's been good to us because it's about 4 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, and some of our colleagues around the world are awake and joining us, and it's wonderful. We do record these sessions. People can look at them, but what we prefer, as Diane was saying earlier, it's so much better to be here live. And I'm so happy to see everyone here today. I'm going to introduce to you our tech leader today is Lynn Rankin Clark. She's at the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, the US. Lynn is going to introduce herself in a second and talk to you a little bit about some rules, very simple rules we like to follow on these webinars. Lynn, welcome and thank you for being here. Over to you.
That was a good way to start. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see so many people here, and I'm still letting people in. We're up to 98 participants, which is incredible. But it does mean that I would really like to run through some of our, oh, maybe this is 90, we're up to 100. This is our first 100-person webinar. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited. This is great. I do think, though, because there are so many of us, we need to just run through a couple of rules. The first one is that if you have a question, can you please pop it into the chat? And I will make sure that when Willie finishes, those will be the questions that he addresses first. After that, if you have a question, then please use the raise hand feature or one of the reactions. While Willie is speaking, could you keep yourselves on mute so that we can keep background noise low? And show your video if you can. It's really nice. I mean, I know Willie's already said this to me. Please leave your videos on. I want to see faces, and we want to see them too. If you have other devices that might make noises or might cause interference, it would be a good idea to switch them off. We aren't going to be taking any breaks. So this is 1 hour, it's 1 hour intensive. So please do enjoy ourselves. I think that's probably it. If you are talking, I mean, when you are talking and asking a question, remember that we are only here for an hour. Willie's only here for an hour. So be mindful of your airtime as well. So I will try to call on people as the questions come in, but try not to take too much time so that we can get through as many as possible. I think that's everything. Back to you, Liz.
Thank you very much, Lynn. It's a good introduction, and I feel that we've set a tone for both engagement and sort of making sure we're mindful of the time. We normally do 60 minutes start to finish, and our speakers, such as Pak Willie, are very generous and have offered to linger for a bit at the end as we end up with more questions than those for which we have time. Our topic today may invite that. Willie, I'm turning it over to you, and there you go, sharing your screen.
Yes, thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's a great honor for me to be here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few things about what I know, about how we can improve, enhance, and grow our teaching, research, and service impact. A very important word that all of us are familiar with is impact. During appraisal time, we need to show our impact to our supervisors. And during promotion time, we also need to demonstrate that we have had some significant impact related to the kind of work that we do. Before I start, let me just say something about my university. I think some of you are familiar with my university, some may not be so familiar with my university. The name of my university is NTU, Nanyang Technological University. Is a good university. In fact, it's a very, very good university. And I belong to this School of Education within the university. Locally, it's called the National Institute of Education. It's one of the best schools of education in the world. It's #1 in Singapore. #1 because we have no competitors. This is the only teachers institution in Singapore. And we've got a range of courses, graduate programs in many different areas of education, masters in education, masters in applied linguistics, and also a range of doctoral programs. If you have never been to Singapore, come to us. It's a very good place for you to do your graduate studies with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the key takeaways of my presentation today is these two things. #1, there's a need for us, every one of us, you, me, everyone, to continue to grow our impact. And #2, also equally important, is we also need to know how to show, how to demonstrate our impact to important people in our job and important people in the community as well. Our supervisors, our students, other stakeholders like the Ministry of Education and other people that are important in our job. 3 things that I want to share with you. #1 is a very brief discussion about what impact actually means. And #2, the types of impact that are important in our work as an academic. And #3, very practical stuff about how we can all grow our impact. Practical tips on how we can grow our teaching, research, and also service impact. Yeah, so 3 points that I want to share with you today. What is impact? I think the word impact is easily understood if you see people around you doing great work in the community. Now, these 2 people were featured recently in The Guardian because of the things that they did for the community. I would call these people the literacy heroes of our time, or heroines of our time. Kiswanti, for example, the lady on the left-hand side, she used to fast for 10 days in order to save money to buy books, not for herself, but for her community, so that she could invite kids to come to her and read with her. In the same way, the gentleman there on the right-hand side, Pak Kinong, has a mobile library. So he would travel around the city and get kids to borrow books from him for free, apparently. Closer to home, we've got people like Linda, Lynn, and Liz who are doing great work, reaching out to people, sharing big ideas, helping people to develop professionally and academically. The amazing 3L ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, big hand, clap, clap, clap for them. Linda, Lynn, and Liz. I think we can tell immediately that these people are, developing, growing, their professionalism and sharing their ideas with a lot of people. And as a result of that, they also are growing their impact. Closer to home, if you have developed something like this, for example, a test that you develop for use in your university or even in the whole country, like this particular test that I have developed some years back, the English language entrance proficiency test, then you can say that your work has a lot of impact because the test that we develop actually is being used by a large number of people in the community. And in this particular case, the Ministry of Education in Singapore has benefited from the use of this test in order to screen people who want to come and join the teaching profession. Now, in academia, I think we recognize the importance of 3 areas that we need to develop, we need to grow our impact in. We need to make sure that what we do is meaningful and is, in terms of teaching, in terms of research, and also in terms of service as well. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that we can do in order to further develop our impact in the 3 areas of teaching, research, and service. But before I do that, let me ask you, where are you in terms of your academic impact? Are you on the lower end, the upper end, or the middle one? I think I would put Diane, towards the extreme right of the scale. So on a 10-point scale, I would put Diane 10, Liz also 10, or maybe the scale is too small for them. Yeah. Let me share with you 3 people. Liz England, Susan Gare, who is the current president of California TESOL, and Ji Hyun Jeon, the former president of Asia TEFL. I think they have done a lot of amazing work for the community. I think their work is so meaningful. I think we need to recognize the contribution of these people to the for the well-being of the community. How about Park Willie? Where would you put Park Willie on the scale? Be generous with me. Give me a 7 and an 8. So along the way, I think you will be thinking with me, together with me, about where you are and where you want to go, and how you can further develop your impact so that your work is recognized by the important people in your work or in your job, and also important people in the community. Very briefly, the way I see it, if you want to grow your impact, if you're a junior faculty member and you want to make an impact, you want to grow your impact, you need to be thinking about how you can make a difference locally, nationally, and also internationally. And I'm going to talk about this one at a time. What are some of the things that we can do to further develop our impact at the local level, at the national level, and at the international level? Let's look at the teaching impact. Teaching is not something that happens in the classroom. Teaching is not about, how you engage your students in the classroom, but teaching means a lot more, as you can see. And you can all develop your teaching impact in a way that is different from what is usually understood by teaching impact. So first off, locally, if you want to be able to say that your teaching is or has impact locally, then you need to show evidence that your teaching is of high quality. This is usually indicated by the end of course evaluation, how your students see yourself as a teacher, peer evaluation, and sometimes also the evaluation of your supervisors. You need to show somehow that your teaching has quality. Teaching awards, for example. Yeah, schools do have teaching awards for their high-performing teachers and lecturers. Have you won any of those teaching awards? So that is another way of showcasing your impact. Have you done any innovation in your teaching and assessment? I think that is also related to teaching. Have you developed a course, for example, that is currently used by the whole university? I think that is another way of showing your impact. So your teaching is not limited to just your classroom, but to curriculum development, to using new ways of teaching, to winning teaching awards and things like that. At the local level, things that you do for your institution, basically. But you need to go further than that. I think you need to also make an impact at the national level. Have you given invited lectures, invited workshops for people outside your city, for people in other provinces within the same country? Have you been involved in the curriculum development or curriculum reform of the schools in your country? I know there's somebody here in the audience, Ibu Dr. Helena. I think she was very much involved in developing the national English language curriculum in Indonesia a few years ago. So that kind of work is something that has to be recognized as being so meaningful to the educational community. Have you served as a consultant to schools, to the Ministry of Education, and to other institutions, educational institutions? Another point is whether or not you have had a chance to be appointed, selected as the Teacher of the Year. If not, at least Teacher of the Week. Last year, I was at TESOL, and I had the privilege of meeting virtually the Teacher of the Year, USA, about 2 years ago, Mandy Manning. She was one of the invited speakers last year at TESOL. So she was Teacher of the Year. It's a big recognition for her. And at the same time, I was there as well. But for me, I would call myself Teacher of the Week. I think that's good enough for me. At the international level, so local, national, and international, what can we do to further grow our impact internationally? Again, giving a guest lecture in other universities, in other institutions, beyond your country, giving a workshop overseas, serving as an external expert or consultant, presenting at the TED forum, becoming a presenter of one of those big online massive courses. I think you can claim this as being, your impact at the international level. In my case, I've been contributing in my way by setting up a professional development group called Teacher Voices. Let me share this with you. This is an online teacher professional development group on Facebook. It has about 12,000 members. Members are researchers and teachers from different parts of the world, and I am one of the lead moderators. So what I do is I engage people in conversations, I share ideas, I talk to people, and I use this as a way for me to share what I know about teaching, what I know about English language teaching to the wider English language teaching community. I've also given workshops, seminars, and guest lectures, either locally and also regionally. The first one there on the top left is a workshop that I did for a group of high school students in Taiwan. So that to me is a kind of impact, working with students, which is very different from working with teachers, which is what the second photo is all about. Giving a workshop, to a group of teachers from Malaysia on how to teach reading. And these days, it has become easier for people to share ideas with other people from other universities. Giving a guest lecture is becoming much, much easier these days. What you need to do is you can use a very simple principle of reciprocity, which means I do something for you and you do something for me. And things are very, very easy now to organize. Later this month, I'll be giving a guest lecture at the University of Hawaii, graduate students who are attending Professor Richard Day's class. And in May, I'll be giving a guest lecture for a group of graduate students from Warwick University. Okay, that's teaching. Remember, your teaching, you can further grow your teaching at the local level, national level, and also at the international level. Research impact now, the second bit. Again, the same thing that I'll be sharing with you locally, nationally, and internationally. If you are starting your career, maybe your research impact is more local than national or international. But as you journey through your career, I think you may need to further grow your research impact so that it's recognized not only locally, but also nationally and internationally. Now, here are some of the examples that I would give to you. If you do a piece of research that is very important, that is useful for your institution, for example, if you do a curriculum review of the program of your university, then and then get this published, I think you are making an impact at the local level. If you publish a paper and your paper is used by your colleagues in their teaching, I think that's another example of research impact at the local level. Yeah, if you did a piece of research on grammar and then you or your colleagues use the findings from your research as a basis to inform the teaching of grammar in your university or in your school, then you can say that you have done something meaningful for your university. At the national level, essentially you are doing the same thing, but for a larger group of people at the involving perhaps the Ministry of Education, involving schools in your city, in other provinces, and also if you are involved actively in a professional community in the country, I think that is something that you can demonstrate to your supervisors that you are contributing, in this area. Internationally, now this one is a little bit tricky for the more junior colleagues. Usually, impact is measured in terms of how many publications in top journals that you have been able to publish. For example, if you have got a paper published in one of the flagship journals in our field, like TESOL Quarterly, then you can say that your research is impactful. ELTJ is another example. It's more practice-oriented, English language teaching journal published by Oxford University Press. I think that is another way of showcasing your impact to your supervisors. If you have published in books, for example, in Cambridge University Press, like this one, for example, then you can also say that your work is recognized internationally. I am very proud of this book that I published about 20 years ago. It has received a lot of citations, but more importantly, Jack Richards and I decided to set aside the royalties from the sales of the book to set up a scholarship fund managed by CMU RALC. I think we got about, not much, about $50,000 back then. And we used the money to, to provide opportunities for people from the region to come to Singapore to do some teacher development courses. So happy when I met one of them and they said, "Oh, Pak Willy, I'm so happy. It's because of you I was able to come to Singapore and study because of your scholarship." So that is something that I'm very happy with. When you receive a prestigious research grant, I think that will be an example of research impact as well. When you give presentations, keynote presentations in international conferences, I think that will be an example of your research impact. And when your publications is used in many other places, like Diane's books, I think everywhere, I think you'll be able to see Diane Larson Freeman everywhere. I think that is one way of contributing and also showing your impact to the international English language teaching community. Here are some examples that you might want to use as a way of demonstrating your impact, usually using Google Scholars or other indices. I like Google Scholars because my Google Scholar citation is quite high, but my citation in other indexes are not quite high. So what I do is I show this and not the other one to my supervisors, but during appraisal time. So you need to be strategic when you share, when you demonstrate your impact to people important to you in your job. Book chapters. Book chapters are not usually very well cited, but these days book publishers provide very useful information in terms of downloads. And you can use this as well to showcase your impact, especially during appraisal time or during promotion and tenure time. Like I said, book chapters, yeah. So you can get information about how many downloads you get. Another way to showcase your impact is by, now this is rather non-traditional, but I think universities are more open these days. So instead of using the usual indices like Google Citation Indices or Index or the Scopus Index, they may consider looking at the number of views that you receive when your paper is deposited in online repository like academia.edu or ResearchGate. Now this one is something that is very interesting. I wrote this paper, very short paper, and I put it on my academia.edu. The number of citations, Google citation is very small. It's about 20 or 30. But the number of views, as you can see on the screen, is 27,000 plus. Yeah. And you can use this to show your supervisors, your deans, head of department that, hey, look, this must mean something. Yeah. It doesn't mean that all these people have read your work, but at least some of them must have read your work. And if you're interested, this is the ebook version of that paper. And I will tell you how to download this a bit later. Yeah, free for you to download later. Another thing that is very important is this: how do we know that people use our work? I saw this recently, floating around on Facebook. Somebody asking people this simple question: if anyone has used any of my publications in your teaching, would you please PM me? Now, this is a very good idea because it's very difficult for you to know whether or not people are using your work, your papers, your books, or your chapters in their courses. So one way to do this will be to ask people through social media like this one. So I did the same thing. So that's what I did. So I put it on my Facebook page and people come to me and tell me, hey, but really, I use your book. It's always good to know that people are using your book, yeah? Next, service impact. Another important area that is often neglected. Service is important. At the local level, if you serve as, management leaders or school leaders like dean, head of department, I think you can show to people that your work has impact. You are contributing to the smooth running of your department or of your faculty. If you are a course coordinator looking after a large course with 500 students, for example, that is something that you want to showcase as well. I know that some people avoid doing this kind of thing, but I think it's very important that you show that you are willing to do these things for your university and for your institutions. A committee member, I know it's a pain, but it's an important part of our job, serving as an academic committee and many other committees out there. If you serve as academic mentors for the junior colleagues, I think that is another way of contributing to your university or to your school. At the national level, again, this is quite similar to what I said earlier about teaching. If you serve as consultant to the Ministry of Education, I think that is a kind of service. If you have given national workshops for a large group of teachers from different parts of the country, I think you can claim that as evidence of your impact. If you serve as committee members of the national revamp curriculum, for example, yeah, that would be another example. Being involved in professional associations like TESOL in Thailand, I think that is also contributions, meaningful contributions, and you can claim that as impact as well. At the international level, there are many things that you can do. You can serve as editors and reviewers of good journals. Now, of course, some of you may be asking, but nobody have asked me, or nobody has asked me to become a reviewer or an editor. Well, these days it goes both ways. My advice is don't wait for people to approach you. You can also actively offer your services to people in the field. And I've done that very often. If you're a 10-year reviewer, for example, I think that is also a kind of service impact. PhD, external PhD examiners, that is also impact. Board member of professional bodies. I am an executive board member of ERF, Extensive Reading Foundation, and we actively promote reading to globally to schools and to universities in many different parts of the world. I think that will be some example of impact at the international level. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you some suggestions, some tips for us to grow our impact, teaching, research, and also service impact. For teaching, Point number one that is very important for us to remember is this: we all need to have this growth mindset. The idea that we can all become better, the idea that we can all become very good at whatever we do or whatever we are doing. If you want to find out more about this idea, growth mindset, read a book by Carol Dweck, a psychology professor from, I think, from Stanford University. It's a very nice idea. Yeah. As long as you put your heart to it, as long as you put your mind to it, I think we can all grow. We can all become excellent teachers in whatever we do. Point number two, if you want to improve on your teaching skills, and we all do need this, seek feedback from your senior colleagues, and also seek feedback in particular from the best teacher in your school or in your university. Yeah, learn from the best. I think that would be the best advice that I could give you. Offer free workshops, offer free consultancy to people that you know. Again, as I said earlier on, do not wait for people to approach you. You should also be approaching people because you're offering something good to other people. I don't think people will say no to you if you have something useful, something interesting to share with them. I think they'll be very happy to say, to have you to give a workshop or even a consultancy. For research and publication, this is particularly important for junior emerging scholars. One thing you need to do is try to pick a hot topic, the kind of topics that attract a lot of research attentions. I'm not saying that other topics should not be done, but if you want to, demonstrate your impact, I think it makes sense for you to pay more attention to allocate your energy to doing the kind of research that is attracting a lot of research attention. And one area that to me is very interesting and has attracted a lot of research in the past 20, 30 years is written corrective feedback. Chances are very high if you do something on this topic, your work will attract a lot of citations from other researchers. Point number two, focus on one or two research topics. Do not try to be an expert in every single field in our area. I know Diane has been working very closely in the area of grammar teaching, for example. I think focus on that. It doesn't mean that you can't, do research on other topics. You can, but throughout your career, you should be known as somebody who has done research, who has expertise in either grammar, in reading, in writing, in speaking, and things like that. Do publish in, publish empirical papers and also non-empirical papers. Yeah, both are equally important where research is concerned. Let me just give you an example of one non-empirical research paper that I did, that I got published in the ELT journal. What I did was I was able to identify a gap in the literature, and I wrote a very short paper, about 4,000 words long, published in the ELT journal, and it attracted a lot of citations. To date, it has received more than 300 citations. A small paper, but it requires a lot of thinking, of course. Yeah. So again, my advice is, in addition to publishing empirical research papers, you should also be publishing conceptual papers or thought papers, if you like. So as I said earlier on, you need to publish in research as well as practice-oriented journals. Research journals are good. They're high profile. They give you a lot more citations, but you should also be engaging, people in the community, people who are more teaching-oriented than research-oriented. I have, for example, published in journals like this, Modern English Teacher. It's distinctly practice-oriented. You don't have to write long papers. They accept, short papers of about 2,000 words or even fewer words. And what I like about this journal is that it has a wide readership. Thousands of people have access to this journal. Number two, publish with your former supervisors. If you are new, then you need to get whatever help you can, and your supervisors will be the first people for you to consult and to publish your papers with. Because they know where and how to get your papers published. So it's very useful for you to invite your supervisors or former supervisors to publish with you. And point number 3 is a bit difficult, but it's not impossible to do. Publish with big players in the field. And I've done that. Stephen Krashen, he came to my university about 3 or 4 years ago. I tried to get to know him. I invited him to 3 lunches, and after 3 lunches, we agreed to publish 3 papers after that. So thanks to the lunches that he enjoyed eating with me. If you publish with big players, chances are very high that your papers will get the attention of the academic and teaching community. So that might increase the your citation counts. Something that many of us are not doing, but I would encourage people to do, the social media. Once you get your papers published, once you have a nice idea, share your ideas with the world. Use the social media, Facebook, Twitter, academia.edu. Another online repository is the ResearchGate. These are very useful places for you to share your ideas with the rest of the world. And point number 3, again, this is something that you don't do very often, but I do very often. I would send my papers to people that I know, to colleagues, to former professors. I'm very happy to say that I sent 1 or 2 of my papers to a university professor in the US that I know very well. He liked the papers, and he included these 2 papers in his required readings. I think that is really, really something that you should be trying. Yeah. And I put my ideas together in this small ebook. It's called Making Our Research Visible and Citable. If you are a top-notch professor or scholar with already a lot of publications, then you don't need this. But if you're a junior emerging scholar, then you probably need to, to tell the world basically, and to help your research become more visible and citable. Conferences. I know a lot of people go to conferences. My advice is do not just present 1, but if possible, 2 or 3. Because you'll be spending time and money traveling to the US, for example, you might as well give 2 or 3 presentations. I think that would be my advice to you. Now, the tricky thing is that if you just send 1 proposal and it got rejected, and that's the end of the story. So my advice is for you to send 2 or 3 proposals. 2 may be rejected, but 1 may be accepted. I learned this from very important people in our field, William Graby and his wife. That's what they said to me. They would send 2 or 3 proposals every year to TESOL, to the TESOL conference. And they would tell me, yes, 2 of them will be rejected and 1 will be accepted. So good advice. Expand your network of friends at conferences. I think this is something that you should be doing. So conferencing is not just traveling and enjoying, your stay in a nice posh hotel, but you should also further develop, enlarge your network of friends. Meet people, basically talk to them, especially the big players in our field. Yeah, make it a point that you have a conversation with them. Another thing that I've been doing is this. If I go to Malaysia, for example, to KL, I would, for a conference, I would make it a point to contact a couple of universities in that area. And I would tell them, hey, I'll be in KL. Would you want me to come and have a chat with your faculty? Maybe a staff seminar? I always mention the magic word. It's free. You don't have to pay me a single cent. And you know what? No one can say no to a free webinar or to free staff seminar. So it's always good to mention that big word, yeah? Tip for service. That little guy there? Knock and the door will be open for you. So that will be my mantra for today. Join the professional associations. Become a journal editors. Yeah, don't wait for them to invite you, but offer your service to them. So offer free workshops, offer free seminars, offer free consultancy to other people. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've now come to the end of my presentation, and I've looked at 3 areas of impact. I've described what impact is all about. Number two, the types of impact that are important in our job as an academic, teaching, research, and service. And I've also shared with you some ideas, some suggestions on how we can all grow our impact. Yeah. So remember that we need to grow locally, we need to grow nationally, and also internationally. And here is a gift for you. Willie's ELT Corner, where you can find a lot of free resources, including the books that I mentioned early on to you. Thank you very much for listening. Liz, back to you.
Bravo. Thank you so much, Pek Willie. So much to think about and so much encouragement for our young and older colleagues in this Zoom meeting. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a gift. We're going to take some of the questions. I know Lynn's been monitoring it. I saw at least 3 questions that I think we would like to begin with. Before we start, I want to make sure that everyone knows that this is the TESOL Career Path Development Professional Learning Network. When we talk about career path development and impact of teaching and research and service, we're talking about different stages of our careers. Yeah. And in Willie's presentation, he was talking about different needs of different groups, which is so fabulous because it's different. Yeah. If you're a new scholar, if you're a newcomer to the world of publishing, you're going to operate with a different set of expectations, a different set of skills, different habits, and so on. And we talk about that in TESOL Career Path Development. We look at our careers as a kind of path or journey. So as we talk now about the wonderful questions that have come up in this presentation, really, really so rich, we could do a whole conference seminar, I think, on this topic. After this presentation, my mind is filled with ideas. Lynn, I'm going to turn it to you to invite the sort of keep us a little bit organized. I invite you all to raise your hand if you want to come in for a comment. We do have over 100 listeners, so it might get a little bit weird. But again, Pak Willie's been kind to offer to linger a few minutes after the 1 hour mark. So we have probably about 15 minutes or 20 minutes to talk. Willie, thank you a million. Lynn, over to you.
Okay, so the first question that we had that came in, Fatma Azam Ali. Fatma, do you want to tell us your question? Or do you want me just to read it?
Just read it.
Okay, I'll just read it. So Fatma asked asked Willie, to what extent should we offer free workshops? Due to COVID, a lot of institutions and organizations are insisting on free workshops from speakers, and at times I think feel it's unfair. So I think she wants to know where the line should be drawn, Willie, or where you think the line should be drawn, Willie.
Very interesting question. I don't draw any lines, basically. Whenever I'm available, whenever I'm not teaching, I'll be very happy to give workshops or online seminars. So I don't, this is for me. Of course, you may have different needs, you may have different priorities, but for me, as long as I'm not teaching, as long as I have the time and the resources, I'll be happy to do it. So as many as we can. In fact, this is a great opportunity. Because in the past, it was difficult actually to offer free workshops to people from other countries because somebody has to pay for your travel expenses, your accommodations. But now it's almost free, basically. So you only need to have access to, to Zoom or other similar platforms. And interestingly, the past 12 months, I've been doing like 50, something like 50. Webinars.
Okay.
So that'd be my answer.
Yes, Fatma had to leave. It was time for the prayer and it's Ramadan. And so she excused herself, but I love her question. I also love your answer, Willie, depending on what you get back from it. I want us to feel that this is not, charity work. It is professional service. And there's a difference between being a volunteer, being a nice person to help somebody with a problem, and professional service. So if Willie says, I have time, I have skill, I have knowledge, I have habits that are professional, and I want to donate those, that's professional service, right? He makes the choice, but he gets something back from it, right? I mean, what do you get back, Willie? You're so generous.
Reminds me of what a wise man said many years ago: to receive is human, to give is divine.
Beautiful.
So that would be my answer to that. I think giving is good. If we give, I think we get something back anyway. Reminds me of another important line that I've seen floating on the internet: to teach is to learn twice. So when you teach, actually you become smarter. When you share ideas with other people, I think you can see your thinking more clearly. And as a result, you learn a lot more. So like today, I learn a lot more. No, I'm sure you learn more a lot as well. I think I learn a lot more from, from talking, from interacting with you, from sharing ideas with you. So remember that to teach is to learn twice. To give is divine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second question that we have up here, and this is, and I apologize for my horrible pronunciation of people's names. Made Wahyu Mahendra. Yeah, did I get that right or wrong?
100% right.
So Made asked, he said that Pak Willie states earlier, some people tend to be teaching oriented and not research oriented. What he'd like to ask is about how to balance the three aspects better so you can get greater impact.
Yes. Another important question. In my university, we have two groups of people who are more research oriented. Now, these are the research faculty. And we also have people who are more teaching oriented, different demands, different, job descriptions, if you like. So people on the teaching appointment, on the teaching side of things, will be doing a lot more teaching, but they're also expected to publish and to do a little bit of research. On the other hand, people who are more on the research track, they do a lot more research. They do fewer number of hours of teaching. So my advice to you is, I think you need to find where your passion is. If you are somebody who enjoys reading, writing for hours, collecting data, then I think you should be doing a bit more research. But if you are somebody like me who enjoy meeting people, interacting with students, then maybe you should be doing, a bit more teaching. But at the end of the day, you need a balance. And the best person to know what the best balance is for you is you, basically, whether you want to do a bit more teaching or to do a bit more research. I think Diane probably has an important, insights to share. Diane has been around for many years, and she can give you advice on this.
Well, here enjoying and listening to you and admiring your generosity. But yes, I think following your passion, what speaks to you. I myself don't make such a clear distinction between teaching and research, because I believe that they are intertwined. Depending on how you define research, it doesn't necessarily mean an experimental design, right? But it means cultivating an attitude of inquiry, and cultivating an attitude of inquiry serves you well as a researcher and as a teacher. Sorry, I'm just really here as a private citizen. I'm not here. I'm here to learn from you, Willie, and to learn from everyone else. So you're very kind, but at the stage of my career, and it's been a very privileged career, I feel the need to give back, and so I'm here finding ways in which I can do that. I'm not as generous as you in doing 50 webinars. I've done a number of webinars for which I received no compensation, but I find they're very demanding. And it takes a great deal of time, and I so much more prefer having the face-to-face interaction, which of course most people do, and we can't. Do appreciate people want contact, and therefore I do them. If I may just chime in with one more bit of advice that I was given, now that you've called on me, you're not going to shut me up. One more little bit of advice that I was given that has served me very well is, if I'm going to go to a conference where I know someone is speaking and I've read their material or I know something about them, I should prepare in my mind one question that I really want to ask that person. And that has served me so well, because I'm curious. And so I love to ask questions and get answers, but it's also an opportunity to make that connection, right? If you just go up and say, "Hi, I'm Diane," well, that doesn't lead to too much. But if I'm Diane and I read such and such and I have a question about it, it's a wonderful way to invite a conversation, to learn from somebody. But it's not only about giving back. You're right. So about getting yourself. And so when I do these things, I learn. And that's why it's almost 10 o'clock at night and I'm a very old woman. I'm here because I know that I can always learn. And it's about continuing to do that. Sorry, I'm not going to talk again. This is not.
No, I just want to point out we're very lucky Diane's here, that she and Willie are friends, that we're also very lucky that Diane is with us. Thank you, Diane, for
thank you, Liz, and thank you for the organizers.
Don't go away. Don't go away. Come back. We love.
I did just mean to be kind of on the sideline here. I really mean to be active participant. So I'm going to mute myself now and forever.
Giving back, that's the word that I've been looking for. Giving back to the community. I remember my long journey, the hundreds of people who have, been instrumental in helping me or shaping me, develop to become who I am today. So I'm always thankful to them. But the idea now is not to give back to them, but to give, forward to the community.
Okay, well, you can give forward to Holly by giving her some insight, because Holly's asked us, she said, "Thank you for your generous sharing." Her question is that some scholars suggest that we should write papers that are tailored to a certain journal. However, what happens to these papers if they are rejected? Do they die forever? And I think she's asking, I have the same question. It's such a great question.
If your paper is rejected, what happens to it?
Yes.
You should try again. You should resubmit it to other journals. There are hundreds of journals out there. We are very, very fortunate because we are in the ELT area. There are thousands of journals out there. So one of them somewhere, they are waiting for our papers to be submitted to them, actually. So do not just, send your paper to one journal. And if your paper is not accepted, that seems like the end of the world. It's not. I think you should try again, send it to other journals. As I mentioned earlier on, I enjoy writing for academic and also practice-oriented journals. In fact, I enjoy writing more for practice-oriented journals like, the TESOL Journal, for example, instead of the TESOL Quarterly. The ELTJ, that's my favorite because it accepts only papers, short papers, 3,500 words. So that's the kind of papers that teachers like you and me enjoy writing. The Modern English Teacher, that one is another very, very good journal. If you have tried for 10 years or 20 years trying to get yourself published in top journals and you've not been successful, what can you do? My advice, well, this is not for you. Continue to become a teacher. Continue to become an excellent teacher. I think we need a lot of excellent teachers in our field. And there's nothing wrong with being a teacher, a good teacher. So I would go for that.
And out of teaching comes other types of research and other types of growth, right, Willie?
Yes,
It's not
absolutely,
just
yes.
about it's not just about writing. And I think that's so. There's another Lynn on here, and she has asked. She said, I can see that one of your motivations is promotion at work because you are rewarded by that impact. For me, whether I do research and increase service doesn't matter at my job. I still do some of all. Is there a bigger goal than being recognized at work? Which I think is an amazing question.
Very interesting question. Reminds me of the idea that is recently very popular, introduced by those people in psychology, especially those in positive psychology. If what you do makes you happy, I think so be it. I think that's the most important goal in your life. It's not just happy in terms of, physical happiness or material happiness, but if you are able to, become an engaged person, if what you do keeps you engaged emotionally, mentally, and perhaps spiritually as well, I think that's a very important goal. In other words, your well-being as a person, as a teacher, as an academic, I think that is probably more important than anything else. Yeah, getting your paper published in the top journal, it will keep you happy for maybe 1 week. But if you do something that is really, really meaningful for you and also for the people that you care, I think that's even more important.
I think, Lynn, can you actually speak? Because I'd really like you to say what you just put in the chat and tell Willie directly.
Lynn, yes, I know Lynn. Lynn is based in the States. She is from Vietnam originally. Lynn, yes. Thank you for coming. I thought 9 o'clock is your bedtime. No?
I'm sitting on my bed. I've never done it, but this is the first time that I'm sitting and listening. And it's nice to meet you because I have seen you a lot and I haven't had a chance to see you present. So that's my comment actually. At work, I have the opposite problem. My boss has told me that you're not an academic. You're not supposed to do research, but I enjoy doing it, so I still do it. I do service. I have different leadership roles within TESOL, for example. I review for journals. So you're right. Maybe part of it is do things that are meaningful to us, but also kind of keep us engaged, right? Intellectually engaged and socially engaged. So that's one thought that I have. And then I put another comment there that one of my colleagues said that impact is one of the most important words for her because she wants to make an impact in this world. So then I thought maybe that's our end goal. It doesn't have to be something else. And then another thought that you also say giving and learning, and that may be the goal itself as well. And actually giving is divine, but I think giving is also selfish in the sense that giving makes us happy. We give because it also makes us happy. So just a few random thoughts. Thanks for letting me speak.
Yes, excellent points. Yes, excellent points. So be the happy person that you can be, Lynn.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more, Lynn, and then we're going to offer a chance to close. And then for those who linger for a few more minutes, it'll be fine. Lynn, one more question?
I don't, that is all the questions that were in the chat.
Okay, good. So we'll get the final word because you're the boss here. What would you like to leave us today and give us our final word here?
Oh, me? Yes, essentially be the best that you can be. Do not try to imitate other people. Be the best that you can be. Identify your passion. I think passion is the #1 thing in your life. Reminds me of a book written by this psychology professor from Pennsylvania, Grit. If you have passion, you will be putting a lot of effort without feeling tired. I think that is wonderful, wonderful thing to do. So you do things because you have the passion to do it. You do things because it's meaningful to you. And hopefully it's also meaningful for the people around you. And point #2, we should all grow. We should learn, continue to learn. We should relearn things that we have learned in the past. And finally, we should also be willing to unlearn many things that we have mistakenly learned in the past. So learn, relearn, and unlearn. So that'll be for me.
Wonderful. Thank you,
final
Willie.
shot.
Please, let's give him a shower of chat comments of thanks. I think Willie has earned these today. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jocelyn, for your comments. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone who's really contributed to this extraordinary session. You know, I think of Brene Brown and some of these Western people who talk about positive thinking or living in these very difficult times. I think we've really touched on some of the very important points here of body, mind, and soul, taking care of ourselves and then taking care of our students and each other as part of our professional career paths. We do it differently. We do it with more strengths in one area or the other. Willie, if you have that reference, I'm sure folks would love to know that Pennsylvania-based positive psychologist you mentioned. I don't know who
very easy. Martin Seligman. I think he is the father of positive psychology.
Yes,
He's a big guy. Yes, you can't miss him.
Seligman, yeah.
Martin Seligman.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Please consider this session closed. Please join us for our next one. It's too late at night for me to have it, but watch our Facebook page where we will make an announcement. Linda Chu provides us with wonderful posters. We have another webinar coming up in another week or so. I'll open my calendar while we're closing here. Willie, thank you so much. What a wonderful event. Diane, thank you a million for being with us. I hope you got as much as you gave today, and we'll come back again.
I always do, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's see.